It's true that America is the strongest country in the world, militarily and economically. But what can military might and economic strength do if a nation loses its moral and spiritual values? You have said, sir, that ours is a crisis of the spirit. Today, let us dedicate ourselves once again to keep the spiritual and moral resources that our forefathers bequeathed to us that made America the greatest nation in the world.
That I have great faith about the future of America. I have faith in it not because we are the strongest nation in the world, which we are, and not because we're the richest nation in the world, which we are, but because there is still in the heartland of this country, and the heartland of America is in every state of America, there is still a strong religious faith, a morality, a spiritual quality, which makes the American people not just a rich people or a strong people, but makes the American people a people with that faith which enables them to meet the challenge of greatness.
The marker reads, birthplace of Dr. Billy Graham, born November 7th, 1918. World-renowned evangelist.
Well, thank you.
Mr. President, you will soon be going to China. In the 3rd century BC, the Great Wall of China was built. This gigantic structure stretches for 1,500 miles, defending China from the barbarians. China's Great Wall remains one of the world's great wonders and is one of the few man-made objects astronauts can see from outer space. But for defensive purposes, the wall proved to be a gigantic failure. When China's enemies wanted to breach it, they didn't have to knock it down. All they did was to bribe the gatekeeper. Thank you, and God bless you.
I have very much in common with him. He has mentioned some of those things. I remember particularly, and I am proud to mention about many others, he couldn't have stood here as he did. He couldn't be recognized as he was as the evangelist who has been heard by more people in more parts of the world than any in the history of the world. This is the season in which we're all interested in sports. I talked to Billy Graham about his ministry and the enormous success of his crusades in America and around the world, how well organized they are. He always gives the credit to the team. And so I pay tribute to Billy Graham's team today. First, to his family team. Are in the presidency, come and go, the House is always there. And we remember the occasion that Mrs. Graham graced that house for one of our worship services. So I think he would want me to pay tribute, and I do it now, to his family team. And also to the Graham organization team. You hear up to mainland China. You also have heard of the fact that I will be making a journey to the Soviet Union. And as these trips take place, and as we end the longest and most difficult war in America's history, or in any nation's history for that matter, hope springs up in America, as it can, as it should, that we may be seeing an era in which we can have peace. Peace not just for a year or 5 years or 10 years, but maybe for a generation, maybe longer than that. That's what we're trying to build. Hope springs up that peoples that have been divided and have not known each other may get to know each other, that our children militarily, and to sit back and say, of course we will meet the challenge. But then we read the pages of history, and we find, as Billy Graham has already inferred in his own message, that the wealth of a nation or the military might of a nation may not be enough in determining whether that nation will survive. I know many of you have visited Washington, and I hope everybody here who is listening to me in this hall or on television or radio will visit our beautiful nation's capital, and particularly drive through the Capitol at night, see the statue of Lincoln at the Lincoln Memorial, go down to the Jefferson Memorial, the White House, all now lighted, go to, by the archives of all the buildings in Washington. To me, it is the most impressive. Impressive first, as they became wealthy, they became soft. As they became better educated without principle, they became weak. And as a result, other civilizations, not as well educated, not as wealthy, not really as strong, overran them. And so the lesson of the past for America today is that we need, of course, and we can be thankful that we do have a country that is wealthy. We need certainly education for all of our people, and better education and opportunity in the years ahead. Because without wealth and without education, we cannot do the great things for our people at home and provide the leadership abroad that we can provide. But we must also remember that those things alone are not enough. It is the character of a nation that determines whether it survives. It is the spiritual and moral strength of its people that determine whether it survives. Where does that come from? We have here distinguished members of the Senate and of the House of Representatives and the governor of this state and the President of the United States and the Secretary of the Treasury. We as government officials cannot decree that a nation shall be morally and spiritually strong. Legislators cannot legislate it. The moral and spiritual strength of a country must come from each individual American. It comes from his home. It comes from his school. But most of all, it can and it must come from his church, from his religious faith. We in this nation have the great heritage of different religious faiths. Each chooses his own. And so tonight and today, this afternoon, I want to say to Billy Graham's friends here in this city and in this county, in this state, which did so much for him, where his roots are, who helped to build his character, I want to say to you that when the history of this last third of this century is written, and the contribution that America made, and I'm confident it will make it, to peace in the world and freedom for most of the world, when that history is written, it will be written about what presidents did and what generals did and about what businessmen did or legislators did. But it is very possible that what will have been most important in making sure that America meets the great challenge of leadership for peace and freedom in the world, will be because of what a man from this county, Mecklenburg County, in North Carolina did. His message, simple, direct, moving, inspiring in young people, in older people, that religious faith, that morality, that strength of character that America had when it's young, that we still have today, but that it is most difficult to keep as a nation becomes wealthy, particularly at a time that it has great responsibilities as we have it today. I want all of you to know that as I stand here today, after the wonderful welcome that Billy received as we drove through the streets of Charlotte, and I thank Billy Graham's hometown and the people of his community for what you have done in producing this fine man. You have contributed to America and the world, one of the great leaders of our time.
Author and educator and a preacher of the gospel of Christ to more people than any other man in history. Quote, Billy Graham is